Massive fire kills at least 45 people in a multi-story building in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Rescuers saved 75 people while dozens were sent to the hospital for medical attention. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Nina Richie Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. The Philippines and Australia forged strong ties after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s visit to Canberra. The Philippine Coast Guard claims that China is lying about giving fishing permits to Filipinos. Alexei Navalny's family appeals to Russian President Vladimir Putin to release the body of the opposition leader. Deadly Texas wildfires scorch 1 million acres of land. And Dune Part 2 is shaping up to be the next big sci-fi epic since Star Wars.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
España,
Paris, France.
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.
London Bureau, Papua New Guinea, in New York,
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila.
Mata ng Agila.
Mata ng
Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s two-day guest of government visit to Canberra became a success as the Philippines and Australia forged strong ties through a strategic partnership.
Australia remains and will continue to be one of our closest friends. In the spirit of bayanihan and mateship, we shall forge ahead in fully maximizing the potentials and the gains from this strategic partnership between our two forward-looking, law-abiding maritime states. I look forward to exerting our tireless efforts to attain this vision.
Australian Governor-General David Hurley also reaffirmed President Marcos's call to promote rules-based international order. Hurley also highlighted that the strategic partnership between the two nations will be bright and will flourish. Meanwhile, Beijing has condemned the maritime security operation between the Philippines and Australia. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning argued that the maritime cooperation between the said two nations would destroy the regional peace and stability of disputed territories. Mao Ning insisted that the South China Sea is generally stable and there is no need to forge any maritime security cooperation between other nations and the like. The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, strongly rebuffs the latest claim of China that it granted permission to Filipino fishermen to fish at Bajo de Masinloc or Scarborough Shoal. PCG spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela, says China is lying about giving fishing permits to Filipinos. A Chinese news agency raised the question to the Philippines, saying China offered a provisional arrangement for Filipinos to fish at the Huangyan Dao or Bajo de Masinloc. It alleged that a problem only arose when the Philippines decided to protect the Filipino fishermen. However, Commodore Tariela points out to China that there is no provisional arrangement between the Philippines and China to allow Filipino fishermen to fish at Bajo de Masinloc. Tariela reminds China that Filipino fishermen have historically fished peacefully in the Bajo de Masinloc even before the establishment of the Chinese Coast Guard. He says that Filipino fishing vessels at Scarborough Shoal are not like the Chinese maritime militia, who disguised as ordinary fishermen and support the bullying and provocation of the China Coast Guard in the West Philippine Sea. The PCG official also attached a video on his X account saying the Chinese news agency could see the Chinese Coast Guard harassing ordinary Filipino fishermen in Bajo de Masinloc. Tariela asserts that the guidance of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to the PCG is very clear, that is to support the welfare of ordinary Filipino fishermen. The 2016 UNCLOS ruling expressly said that Bajo de Masinloc is well within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone. The United States is planning to invest 1.7 trillion pesos in the Philippines to counter any economic pressure that Beijing may exert on Manila. Philippine ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez, announced this in response to concerns raised by Filipino exporters regarding potential reductions in fruit imports from the Philippines by China. He also confirmed the approval and allocation of the investment, emphasizing that this is just one component of the broader spectrum of investments slated for the country. Romualdez further noted that American businesses are diversifying their investments, focusing on sectors such as infrastructure, energy, artificial intelligence, healthcare, manufacturing, and semiconductor technology. The Bureau of Immigration and the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, have established a data sharing agreement to streamline access to information on foreign nationals obtaining alien employment permits and qualifying for working visas. According to BI Commissioner Norman Tancinco, this collaboration aims to ensure that only legitimately vetted foreign workers, as certified by DOLE, are granted work visas and permits in the country. Under this agreement, DOLE will furnish the BI with comprehensive data concerning foreign nationals issued alien employment permits, or AEPs, certificates of exemption and exclusion, along with details on canceled and revoked AEPs. Moreover, this data will serve as a crucial resource for the BI in verifying the credentials of applicants seeking conversion or to or extension of their working visas. DSWD is studying to increase cash grants of 4Ps program beneficiaries to help them keep up with the rising cost of living brought on by inflation. DSWD spokesperson Assistant Secretary Romel Lopez said that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s Jr. ordered DSWD, NEDA, and PSA to look into the possibility of increasing the financial help given to citizens under the poverty belt. Lopez noted that cash grants for the 4Ps beneficiaries has remained the same ever since it was established as law in 2019. Furthermore, Lopez added that it's not easy to enact such a feat, as the current effective law on 4Ps benefits still needs to be amended by the Congress. The budget for 4Ps in 2024 has already been pushed up to 106.3 billion pesos, a 3.57% increase from the previous year's budget. Lopez disclosed that the said increase will be used to reinstate the previous beneficiaries proven to still be under the poverty line. The Bureau of Fire Protection, or BFP, says smoking leads the list of cause of fire incidents in the country this year so far. The BFP data shows that lighted cigarettes, cigars, and pipes caused 191 fire incidents from January 1 to March 1. Other top causes of fire incidents include open flame from cooking involving liquefied petroleum gas, gas stoves, and firewood with 155 cases. Electrical ignition due to arcing with 144 accidents. Electrical ignition due to loose connection with 98 cases. And electrical ignition due to overloading with 62 incidents. The BFP says a total of 3,044 fire incidents have been reported from January 1 to March 1, or 25.6% higher compared to the 1,000 or 2,424 recorded in the same period in 2023. 1,698 of the cases were accidental. 20 cases were classified as intentional, while 1,259 cases are still under investigation. The BFP says 69 people died and 213 others were injured in the fire incidents, which occurred mostly in residential areas. Registered births in the Philippines from January to September 2023 declined by 16.46% to those recorded in the same period in 2022. Provisional data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, shows that births in the 9-month period last year totaled 879,511. This number of registered births is fewer than the 1,052,747 in the same period in 2022. The number of deaths also declined to 11.49%, or 449,206 from 507,516 in 2022. The PSA says the top 5 causes of death in the Philippines for year 2023 are ischemic heart disease, neoplasms, cerebrovascular disease, diabetes mellitus, and pneumonia. In other news, there will be mixed price adjustments on oil products next week. The Department of Energy said that based on four-day trade, motorists are expected to pay 20 centavos to 45 centavos per liter more for gasoline. Diesel per liter, on the other hand, will go down by 30 centavos to 60 centavos. Meanwhile, kerosene price per liter will also go down by 30 centavos to 50 centavos. The final price adjustment is expected to be released Monday. Coming up, South Korea's PM touts Japan as a key deterrent to the north. Vladimir Putin sends a strong warning to the West. And Gaza faces a looming famine. Stay tuned. Matana Agila International will return for more global news.
This
Stocks, money market, cryptocurrency, properties are just some of the common investment vehicles we are familiar with. Vince Rapisura, financial guru and a successful social entrepreneur who founded the Social Enterprise Development Partnerships, will let us in the world of cooperatives as an investment vehicle. Learn about the functions of cooperatives and how it helps small entrepreneurs access financing as they open for business.
Itong investment na ito ang pang-retirement, pangpatayo ng bahay, pagpaaral sa aking anak. Kaya mo ba talagang ilagay yan sa isang investment na pwede kang malugi? So, you go into safer investments.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sunday 25.
This portion is
Welcome back to Agila International. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol wants to improve ties with Japan to deter Pyongyang's threat and weapons developments. During a ceremony to mark an independence holiday, President Yoon said that next year's celebration of diplomatic relations with Japan could be a hope for a higher level of bilateral relationship. During his speech, Yoon said that Seoul would need international help for any aspect of unification with North Korea. Yoon's comments come after the North's leader Kim Jong-un called Seoul a primary foe and affirmed that unification was no longer available. Tensions have also increased following the intensifying military drills of U.S. military forces and South Korea involving Japan, sometimes as a response to weapons testing of the North. Yoon accused Pyongyang of tyranny and human rights abuses and would continue to support North Korea defectors. China has criticized British Foreign Secretary David Cameron and other foreign politicians for tainting Hong Kong's national security law.
英方相关声明粗暴干涉中国内政和香港事务，再次暴露了根深蒂固的殖民心态和教师爷的心态。中方对此坚决反对。
The legislation, dubbed Article 23, is aimed at combating crimes including treason, theft of state secrets, espionage, and the like. The Hong Kong office of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has expressed its strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition to the British Secretary. British Foreign Secretary Cameron previously criticized Article 23's vague reference to external forces, as well as the new offense of external interference. Cameron described it as a threat to diplomatic and consular activities as protected in the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. Meanwhile, the United States Department said it was also closely looking into the legislation and the implications for U.S. citizens and companies operating in Hong Kong.
Russian President Vladimir Putin warns of a real risk of nuclear war if the West escalates the conflict in Ukraine. Rex Dulay has the details.
In Moscow, during his annual speech to Russians, President Vladimir Putin says his soldiers are advancing in Ukraine and warns the West of tragic consequences for any country that dares to send troops to Kiev. Putin says with the West announcing the possibility of sending military contingents to Ukraine, consequences for possible interventionists will be much more tragic. He adds that the West should realize that Russia also has weapons that can hit targets on their territory. Everything that the West comes up with, Putin warns, creates the real threat of a conflict with the use of nuclear weapons, and thus the destruction of civilization. His comments appear to be a response to French President Emmanuel Macron's refusal earlier this week to rule out sending troops to Ukraine. Macron's stance drew swift rejection from other leaders in Europe. Western leaders have repeatedly criticized Putin for what they see as his reckless use of nuclear rhetoric. Rex Dulay from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Relatives and supporters of Alexei Navalny are saying their final goodbyes to the opposition leader at a funeral in Moscow. Navalny's mother, Lyudmila Navalnaya, spent 8 days negotiating with authorities to secure the release of his body. Initially, authorities cited the need for post-mortem tests as the reason for withholding the body, but Navalnaya made an appeal to President Vladimir Putin, urging him to release the body.
Я обращаюсь к вам, Владимир Путин. Решение вопроса зависит только от вас. Дайте мне, наконец, увидеть моего сына. Я требую незамедлительно выдать тело Алексея, чтобы я могла его по-человечески похоронить.
Despite its release, Kira Yarmysh, spokeswoman for Navalny's team, alleged that at least one funeral director had been prohibited from working with Navalny supporters. It remains uncertain which of Navalny's family members or allies will attend the funeral, as many of his associates are in exile abroad, fearing prosecution in Russia.
Yahya Dillo, cousin and prominent critic of Chad's military leader Mohamed Deby, has reportedly been killed in a shootout with security forces. His death follows the government's accusation linking him to a fatal attack on the country's security agency, an accusation Dillo had vehemently denied. The incident unfolded with heavy gunfire near Dillo's party headquarters in the capital of Chad.
Yahya Dillo et ses partisans ont été poursuivis pour se faire arrêter. Au moment où ils sont allés pour les arrêter, ils ont répliqué avec des armes lourdes contre les forces de l'ordre. Les forces de l'ordre ont usé de leurs droits légitimes à la défense et ont attaqué ces personnes, les ont appréhendées. Il y a eu des morts de notre côté. Il y a eu 4 morts de notre côté, 3 morts du côté des assaillants. Et à partir de là, M. Yahya Dillo a succombé suite à ses blessures, puisque lui-même a tiré sur les forces de l'ordre.
Dillo, who was seen as a significant challenger to his cousin in the upcoming elections aimed at reinstating constitutional governance, was widely expected to be a key contender.
Violent clashes erupted throughout the Haitian capital, resulting in the deaths of 4 police officers amidst claims by a prominent gang leader of a coordinated assault aimed at removing Prime Minister Ariel Henry from power.
Parce que victime nous important parce que ti moun yo plus grave nous même grand moun nous ka gérer tête nous mais ti moun yo bagala grave.
Gang leader Jimmy Chergassier had declared ahead of time that all armed factions would take action to compel Prime Minister Henry to resign. Gunfire echoed across the city as authorities engaged assailants who targeted police stations, resulting in 2 being set ablaze. along with attacks on a police academy at the Tucson Louverture International Airport. In addition to the 4 officers killed, 5 others sustained injuries in the clashes, and the chaos shows no signs of abating anytime soon.
Israeli forces opened fire on Palestinians scrambling for food aids in northern Gaza. This in a chaotic scuffle that the Hamas-run health ministry says killed 104 people and injured more than 750 others. Kimi Oria has the details.
What was supposed to be an aid distribution turns into a nightmare when Israeli troops opened fire on the aided crowd, believing it posed a threat. The Israeli military says a stampede occurred when thousands surrounded an aid convoy. Aerial shot images released by the Israeli army show what it says are Gazans surrounding aid trucks. The Israeli military says dozens were killed and injured from pushing, trampling, and being run over by the trucks. A wounded Palestinian says they were waiting on a street when suddenly tanks stormed them. There, he says, were the parcels packed with aid. People, because of hunger, headed to the sea to collect airdropped aid parcels. He says it turned chaotic when crowds of people were fired upon by the military. The displaced cry out, saying their children are dying of hunger and that they are eating animal food. Wounded people were taken to the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia in the northern Gaza Strip to be treated. Some did not make it alive. Kimi Oria from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Tech boss Elon Musk is raising the alarm about what he calls a flood of illegal immigrants entering the United States. The world's #1 billionaire shares his concern on his X account, warning that the flood at the United States border is crushing the country. Earlier this month, reports said the Biden administration will offer legal status to around 11 million people. Musk also criticized the reported policy, explaining it is the risking of the essential services of the United States. The pressure on U.S. President Joe Biden to implement a tougher migration policy has increased due to a recent surge in encounters reported by Border Patrol. The House Judiciary Committee reveals that since Biden took office on January 20, 2021, at least 3.8 million illegal aliens have entered the United States.
U.S. President Joe Biden takes the wheel in addressing national security risks posed by Chinese technology integrated into cars. Our New York correspondent Bobby Soriano has that story.
In a bid to address national security concerns, President Joe Biden has initiated an investigation into potential risk associated with Chinese technology integrated into cars. Biden has directed the Commerce Department to delve into vehicles equipped with tech from countries of concern, with a focus on China. The move comes amid fears that China could leverage unfair practices to dominate the global auto market, posing threats to U.S. national security. The probe targets connected vehicles, which collect vast amounts of data and could be susceptible to exploitation by foreign governments. This initiative underscores the Biden administration's recognition of the intersection between critical technology, economic growth, and national security. While the number of Chinese tech-enabled vehicles on U.S. roads is currently low, officials emphasize the need for preemptive action given China's growing automobile export market, particularly in Europe. The Alliance for American Manufacturing supports the investigation and advocates for additional measures such as higher tariffs. Concurrently, concerns have been raised over the handling of data collected during the testing of autonomous vehicles by China-related companies in the U.S. Beyond automobiles, Biden is also taking steps to restrict the flow of sensitive U.S. personal data abroad through an executive order. In New York, Bobby Soriano from Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
As the world transitions to cleaner fuel, Shell said global demand for liquefied natural gas, or LNG, will surge 50% by 2040. LNG is natural gas liquefied by cooling it to minus 162 Celsius. LNG has grown in importance since Russia cut its pipeline gas supplies to Europe, pushing the region to secure the supercooled fuel to replace the lost volumes. EU countries are also striving to emerge from the energy crisis caused by the imposition of sanctions against Russian hydrocarbons. To date, the global supply of LNG still manages to meet demand. The demand for LNG will primarily be driven by the Asian market as China and developing Asian nations switch from dirtier coal to comparatively cleaner fuel. But analysts say if steps are not taken to increase the production of LNG, a shortage is inevitable.
Up next, a deadly fire rips through a Bangladesh shopping center. The largest wildfire in Texas history burns through swaths of land. And Adobe reveals a new AI tool dubbed Photoshop for music. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break.
This
Bata ang ipinanganak na may kakaiba at iba't ibang karamdaman, pinarespondihan.
Mamahalin ko siya, lahat gagawin ko kasi siya na po yung buhay ko.
Ilang OFW naloko, panibagong scam online, ibubuking. Isang ama na may prostate cancer, nagparesponde.
Andyan sila, asikaso sa akin, kaya pinilit ko pa rin. Kawawa sila kasi wala pa ako.
Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi, ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Let's get together. Sunday 25.
A massive fire claimed at least 45 lives in a multi-story building in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Local media reported the blaze started in a restaurant around 10 in the evening. Rescuers saved 75 people, while dozens were sent to the hospital for medical attention. Fire officials said the blaze was contained after 2 hours. Bangladesh Fire Service and Civil Defense noted that the fire could be caused by a gas leak. Authorities, however, disclosed an investigation to trace the cause of the fire is underway.
A fire razed an industrial warehouse in Trucasano, Italy. Firefighters rushed to a warehouse owned by Arcadia, a firm that deals with logistics and transport of plastic materials. Police were also present at the scene of the blaze. Meanwhile, local officials called 118 ambulances and a vehicle to the site as a precaution. Local officials announced that the fire was successfully extinguished. The investigation to determine the cause of the fire is underway.
In the U.S., a historic wildfire is ripping across the Texas Panhandle, taking lives and destroying homes. It is now the largest fire ever recorded in the state. A cluster of rapid-moving wildfires engulfed the Texas Panhandle Wednesday, spreading through multiple small towns and cattle ranches. One of the largest fires, known as the Smokehouse Creek Fire, less than hours' drive north of Amarillo, merged with another wildfire, scorching over 1.1 million acres, roughly 1,700 square miles, and only 3% of it contained as of Thursday. The blaze, which began Monday, is now the largest wildfire in Texas history. Evacuations were ordered, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued a disaster declaration Tuesday for 60 counties, urging Texans to limit activities that could create sparks and take precautions to keep their loved ones safe. Authorities have not yet given a definite cause for the multiple fires, only that the climate in the area has been unseasonably warm with dry conditions and gusty winds. A second blaze, known as the Windy Deuce Fire in Moore County, covered an estimated 140,000 acres and is only 30% contained. Governor Abbott authorized additional state resources, which included 94 firefighting personnel, 33 fire engines, and 6 air tankers. Crew from all over Texas, which included teams from the Houston area, a roughly 8-hour drive away, traveled to the Panhandle to help extinguish the fires and provide rescue support. Several people are dead after an attack on the office of Chad's ANSE Internal Security Agency in the capital, N'Djamena. Danica Lee tells us more.
The assault happened overnight. Activists from the opposition Socialist Party Without Borders, or PSF, headed by Yaya Dillo, are being blamed for the attacks. The Chad government says the situation is now completely under control and that the perpetrators have been arrested or are being sought and will be prosecuted. It says the attack comes after a party member was arrested and accused of an assassination attempt against the president of the Supreme Court. Dillo is a fierce opponent of Chad's transitional president, Mahamat Idris Deby Itno. Dillo and Deby Itno are cousins. Dillo denounces the attack against the Supreme Court president as staged. The ANSE attack follows the announcement that Chad will hold a presidential election on May 6. Both Mahamat Deby Itno and Dillo intend to contest this. Mahamat Deby Itno took power in Chad after his father, Idris, was killed while fighting rebels in 2021. Idris ruled the desert nation for 3 decades. Danica Lee from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Environmental activists occupying a forest close to Tesla's factory near Berlin demanded an end to the electric vehicle maker's German expansion plans and protect local groundwater. Pearl Rogachon has more.
Tesla wants to expand its factory in Gruenheid by 170 hectares and boost production up to 1 million vehicles annually. Gruenheid is located southeast of the capital. The environmental group Robin Wood, however, says the plans threaten the drinking water supply for the entire region. Robin Wood is one of the protest organizers. Activists are camping out in the treetops in part of the forest Tesla needs to raze to expand its only site in Europe. The activists' tactics are intended to impede the expansion works. This by making it difficult for authorities to dislodge protesters from their perch. Tesla's Gruenheid factory opened in 2022 after an arduous 2-year approval and construction process dodged by administrative and legal obstacles. The regional plant's massive demand for water was a sore point for residents in an area hit by summer droughts in recent years. Pearl Rogachon for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The first snow of the year has finally fallen at the Michlifen ski resort in Ifre in Morocco. Scientists say many ski resorts are grappling with the impacts of climate change. Some resorts were even forced to close due to persistent drought, lack of snowfall, delayed precipitation, and rainy conditions. House rental operator Oakade Dawi said Michlifen residents waited a year for snow. He said that their place became like a desert with no plants, no grass, and no greenery.
شحال وحنا كنتسناو الثليجه طيح يعني يفرن بلاد الجرا ما كتسوى والو طاحت واحد شويه السيمانه الفايته وانا داكشي داب مع الشتا والضبابه ذوباتها ونهار الاثنين بالليل بدات كطيح والحمد لله نتوما كتشوفوا الرواج تروجات القضيه الناس استافدوا من السياحه هاد اللي كيبيعوا يشريو صحاب البازار صحاب القهاوي وما تما كيبيعوا يشريو مع الناس ايوا الحمد لله وحنا مسرورين بهاد الثليجات بهاد الزائر الابيض كما كيقولوا.
In Toronto, a team of trash fighters warns that if people do not change their ways, plastic pollution will only worsen in the next decades, endangering global water systems. Chantel Santos reports.
Plastic remains a major source of pollution everywhere in the world, and Toronto is certainly not an exemption. The University of Toronto trash team has collected 43 kilograms of litter and approximately 63,000 small pieces of plastic in a 6-month period last year. The said organization says that microplastics are the most common items collected via sea bins deployed along Toronto's waterfront and harbor. Almost 4,000 small plastic pieces were intercepted by these trash traps before it could reach Lake Ontario. Large plastic fragments were also collected, which included cigarette butts, films, bottle caps, and food wrappers. The trash team currently employs trash capture technology in removing plastic pollution from Toronto waterways. According to their report, about 140 million tons of plastic have built up in global water systems, and this number is expected to triple in the next 40 years if people do not change their plastic use and waste management habits. In Toronto, Ontario, Chantel Santos from Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In Johannesburg, South Africa, the United Nations launches the report of the high-level panel on the teaching profession. This as the world faces what the UN describes as a dramatic shortage of teachers. Jeff Sanidad tells us more.
In a video message, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the world today has entered a period of dramatic challenge and change. He says yesterday's education system won't cut it, and that now, more than ever, there is a need to move towards learning societies. People across the globe, Guterres says, need high-quality skills, knowledge, and education. Most importantly, the United Nations chief says people need the best teachers possible. But there is a huge problem the world is facing today, a frightening shortage of teachers.
But today, we face a dramatic shortage of teachers worldwide. And millions of teachers lack the support, skills, and continuous training they need to excel in the classroom of the future. These simple truths drove the creation of the high-level panel on the teaching profession, a key follow-up on the UN's Transforming Education Summit in 2022.
Guterres says the panel has developed key recommendations to ensure that every learner has access to a professionally trained, qualified, and well-supported teacher. But to reach this goal, he says we need to invest in teacher training, establish professional teaching standards, reflect teachers' voices in policy decisions, and create national commissions to tackle teacher shortages. Guterres says it is time to provide teachers the support, recognition, and resources they need to provide quality, relevant education and skills for all. In Washington, D.C., Jeff Sanidad for Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Successfully launched its imaging satellite from Russia's Vostochny Cosmodrome. Dubbed Pars-1, the Iranian-made research satellite was carried by a Russian Soyuz rocket as it was sent into orbit. Iranian media reported that the homegrown satellite is said to scan Iran's topography from an orbit of 310 miles above the Earth's surface. Previously, Tehran has simultaneously launched 3 satellites into orbit in January. This has gained criticism from Western governments as they fear that the same technology can be used for creating ballistic missiles. Meanwhile, the United States announced that it would soon impose new sanctions on Iran after reportedly supplying Moscow with ballistic missiles.
Adobe has unveiled its new AI Photoshop of music making and editing. Dubbed Project Music Gen AI Control, the prototype tool allows users to generate music with just text prompts. This also comes with an audio editing feature to ease up the music production. By inputting a text description such as sad ballad or slow jazz, the tool will generate music based on the said prompt. Users can also adjust the generated audio's tempo, intensity, and structure based on a reference melody. Other tech firms such as Google and Meta also have similar tools. Google's Music LM and Meta's AudioCraft can also generate audio via text prompts. However, they have no features for audio editing, unlike Adobe's tool. Adobe has previously announced that the public domain content was uploaded for the public demo build of the tool. Adobe's Project Music Gen AI control is not yet available to the public, and no release dates have been announced. Coming right up, where is Kate Middleton? Victor Wembanyama beats Chet Holmgren. And is Dune 2 worth the watch? Catch more news in sports and entertainment when we return.
Chloe's new designer looks back to the 70s on the Parisian house and the blend of femininity and bohemian chic of its then designer Karl Lagerfeld. This is the inspiration of her first collection as the head of Chloe. Estella Dominique has the details.
41-year-old German designer Ximena Camilli says coming back to Chloe was very natural, like coming home. She says it is also a new beginning. In the early 2000s, Camilli worked for the brand as an intern and then under Phoebe Philo. For her first collection in charge, she plays with contrasts, feminine and masculine, chiffon and vinyl, powder pink and military green, white lace and black thigh-high boots. Camilli replaces Gabriella Hearst, who lasted just 3 years at Chloe. Hearst's sustainability focus earned acclaim but failed to bring a major boost in sales. Trained at Central St. Martin's in London, Camilli was poached from Saint Laurent. There, she was head of women's ready-to-wear. She says she wanted to return to the original roots of the house and build a Chloe that radiates warmth and positivity. Estella Dominique from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Kate Middleton's absence has sparked the curiosity of the public due to Prince William pulling out of a royal family affair. This is after Kensington Palace issued a statement that Prince William has to attend to personal matters. Since the remaining weeks of 2023, Kate has notably withdrawn from royal affairs like various holiday activities and other high-profile appearances. The Princess of Wales' last public appearance was in December for her family's annual holiday affair. In mid-January, the storm finally struck when Middleton vanished from the public eye following her abdominal surgery. Since then, the palace has assured the public that the princess continues to be doing well, but that did not put out the fire of speculation. Adding insult to injury, Middleton was notably absent from Prince William's side as he walked the red carpet of BAFTAs alone, an event the prince has been president of since 2010. In a statement, a spokesperson for Kate Middleton said, and I quote, "Kensington Palace made it clear in January the timelines of the princess recovery. We said we'd only be providing significant updates. That guidance stands." Middleton's whereabouts have been obstructed from the public since Prince William has been back on track with his royal responsibilities, having to cover for the empire's top monarch, King Charles, who has also seen limited appearances since his cancer diagnosis.
German politicians condemned the co-director of No Other Land, Israeli filmmaker Yuval Abraham, and is now facing heavy backlash after his acceptance speech in Berlin award ceremony. Abraham, whose speech is to oppose the war in Gaza, said that he is now receiving death threats and that his family had fled their home in Israel for safety.
I want to say we are standing in front of you now. Me and Bassel are the same age. I am Israeli, Bassel is Palestinian. And in 2 days, we will go back to a land where we are not equal.
This year's Berlin Awards was overshadowed with political events, including the Israeli conflict and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. These events faced a backlash not just from German politicians, but also from the local media over the weekend. Festival organizer Marianne Riesenbeek said, and I quote, "We understand the outrage that the statements made by some of the award winners were perceived as too one-sided and in some cases inappropriate," she said, adding that it would have been more appropriate if award winners and guests offered more differentiated statements on this issue, stating that the positions expressed during the award ceremony did not reflect the festival's position.
I'm living under a civilian law, and Bassel is under military law. We live 30 minutes from one another, but I have voting rights, and Bassel is not having voting rights. I'm free to move where I want in this land. Bassel is, like millions of Palestinians, locked in the occupied West Bank. This situation of apartheid between us, this inequality, it has to end.
Filipino Ivorian fencer Maxine Esteban will compete in a final Olympic qualifying tournament in Washington, D.C. on March 15, aiming to officially secure a ticket to the Summer Games scheduled in Paris. Esteban, who switched federations after a controversial exclusion by the Philippine Fencing Association, currently leads the race for the direct qualification spot in the African Continental Zone. Additionally, Esteban is presently the second-ranked Asian among female foil athletes in the Olympic qualification ranking. She would have been a strong contender for one of the two Asian continental slots to the Paris Games and could have been the fifth Olympian for the Philippines had she not switched federations due to what she claims as unfair and unjust treatment by the PFA. As the Rookie of the Year race continues, NBA fans got another exciting battle between the two favorites for the award, Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. Vin Pasqua has the score.
The San Antonio Spurs and rookie Victor Wembanyama put on quite the show in front of the home crowd for the first time in 26 days. This game was the Spurs' first at home since February 3 because of their long-standing rodeo road trip. The Spurs spent the 9 previous games on the road, going 1-8 with the All-Star break in between, as the San Antonio Spurs beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 132-118. After giving up a 12-point third-quarter lead and falling behind in the fourth, the Spurs stormed back for a 132-118 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Frenchman put his stamp on the victory with a three-pointer with 2 minutes and 10 seconds left to put San Antonio up 9, and then a block on the Thunder's own star rookie Chet Holmgren 20 seconds later. Wembanyama finished with 28 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 blocks, and was 5 of 7 from three-point range, becoming the first player in NBA history to have at least 25 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks, and 5 three-pointers in a game. The Spurs were constantly putting the ball in the 7'4" rookie's hands down the stretch as he made plays to guide the young team to victory, snapping their 5-game losing streak and the Thunder's 6-game win streak respectively. Wemby becomes the third player to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 blocks over a 7-game span since 1973-74 season, joining David Robinson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was also the third time this month that Wembanyama had 25 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 blocks in a game. The only other 2 players to do that in a month since Abdul-Jabbar and Hakeem Olajuwon. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31 points for Oklahoma City, his 7th consecutive 30-point game and his 44th 30-point game of the season. Just 3 back of tying Kevin Durant for the most such games in a season in franchise history. Holmgren, who had 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists, is the closest competitor to Wembanyama for the Rookie of the Year award. Wembanyama said that winning the Rookie of the Year award is very important to him this season, but he declined to say whether he thought the race was over.
I love it. I missed it. Enjoying a game and winning back from the road trip with more than 16,000 people that I love. Best feeling. Hey, can we get Go Spurs go? 1, 2, 3, go Spurs go!
Reporting for Sports, Vin Pascua for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Dune Part 2 is being showered with positive reviews from critics, and its Rotten Tomatoes score of 97% reflects how much they loved it compared to the first movie. Stephanie Mayo has the scoop.
Now showing in theaters is Dune Part 2, the long-awaited follow-up to the 2021 blockbuster hit and Denis Villeneuve's second film adaptation of the 1965 novel by Frank Herbert. Dune Part 1's Rotten Tomatoes score is only 83%, while Dune Part 2's score is 12 points higher at 95% as of press time, proving that critics love the sequel compared to the first. The critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes reads, visually thrilling and narratively epic, Dune Part 2 continues Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of the beloved sci-fi series in spectacular form. Dune Part 2 follows the journey of Paul, played by Timothée Chalamet, as he joins Chani, played by Zendaya, and the Fremen of a desert planet while exacting revenge against the enemies who destroyed his family. According to a review by The Guardian, Denis Villeneuve's monumental adaptation expands its extraordinary world of shimmering strangeness. It's impossible to imagine anyone doing it better, while a review from CNN says Dune Part 2 purports to show us a freedom struggle on an exotic and distant planet, but it tells the same old story of power as ever. Stephanie Mayo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
And it's already Friday.
Happy weekend.
Feels like Friday evening. And to help you get through this week or the forthcoming weekend, here's a quote from American singer-songwriter Erykah Abby Wright, also known as Erykah Badu. What I work hard at doing is staying on a path of being kind and showing and proving that I'm a good person to society. That's hard. The talent, that's a gift. I just came here like that.
I think sometimes we overthink proving ourselves as well, but just being nice to the people around you is already enough.
And I keep telling my kids, you know, good looks, beauty, that's all God-given. But to be kind is something that we choose for every single day of our lives.
Very true. So something we can think about this weekend.
For sure.
Be kind to the people around you. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. You can catch the latest updates on our social media channels.
And if you happen to be on the road at this hour, please don't fail to tune in to Agila FM 95.5.
Thank you so much for joining us on Mata ng Agila International this week. I am Gianna Llanes.
And I am Nina Richielago Flores. Stay tuned for tonight's episode of Counterpoint with attorney Salvador Panelo. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Thank you for Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International, your trusted news source, connecting you to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.